Welcome to the place where fear finds you. So sit back, put on your headphones, and remember some stories don't end when the video does. Ricky was 19 when it happened, just a college kid trying to make some extra money before fall semester started. He worked part-time delivering food for one of those apps, nothing special, just enough to pay for gas, late-night snacks, and some textbooks he probably wouldn't read. Most nights were easy. Drive around town, drop off tacos or fried chicken, get a thumbs up from some sleepy person in pajamas, and head off to the next. The hardest part of the job was dealing with slow elevators or barking dogs. It wasn't glamorous, but it was peaceful. In a weird way, solitary, predictable. But that night wasn't like the others. It was a steady quiet, chilly with the kind of air that makes your skin prickle just a little. Around 9:30 p.m., Ricky was thinking of calling it a night when a new order popped up. It was a bit farther out than usual. On the edge of town where the city lights faded into black fields and tall trees, the customer had ordered a single cheeseburger and fries, nothing else. The tip looked generous though, so Ricky figured, why not? The map app had a hard time finding the address at first. The pin kept bouncing around like the GPS couldn't decide where the house really was. Eventually, it settled on a spot tucked into a small cul-de-sac surrounded by woods. There were only 3 houses there, and one of them looked completely dark on satellite view. He drove out there anyway. The roads got narrower the deeper he went, the streetlights fewer and farther between by the time he turned onto the gravel road leading into the cul-de-sac. The only light came from his own headlights and the dull glow of the phone on the passenger seat. He pulled up to the address on the app. At first, he thought he was in the wrong place. The house in front of him looked abandoned. The paint was faded and peeling. The grass was overgrown to the point that it brushed against the bottom of his car. The windows were dark and dusty, like they hadn't been cleaned in years. There was no car in the driveway, no sound, no movement, but the porch light was on. Ricky squinted at the number painted above the garage. It matched exactly. He glanced down at the app. It said clearly, "Deliver to front door." So he grabbed the bag of food, took a breath, and stepped out into the cold night air. The gravel crunched beneath his shoes. There was a strange stillness in the air. No wind, no insects, just the sound of him walking and the low hum of his car engine behind him. He climbed the porch steps slowly. The wooden boards creaked under his feet. He stood in front of the door, raised a hand, and knocked once. Lightly. Nothing. He waited. No footsteps, no voices, no signs of life inside the house. He knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. Then without warning, the porch light flickered, just once. A sudden dimming, followed by a buzz, then steady again. Ricky's heart jumped a little, but he brushed it off. Probably just an old bulb. He turned slightly, thinking maybe he'd just leave the bag there and get back in the car when he heard it. A rustling. Fast, low to the ground, in the grass behind him. He spun around. Nothing, just the wind starting to pick up, the trees swaying gently at the edge of the property. The other 2 houses were completely dark. No lights, no curtains. No signs that anyone else lived there. He swallowed hard and turned back toward the door, and that's when he noticed it. The door. It was now slightly open, just a crack, a few inches, but he hadn't heard it open. Seen the handle move. It was closed when he knocked. He was sure of it, and now it was open. Inside was nothing but pitch black, not even the faintest glow from a hallway light, just thick, heavy darkness, like looking into a cave. Every instinct in his body told him something wasn't right. He didn't call out. He didn't step closer. He simply placed the food bag gently on the porch, took a few slow steps back, then turned and walked toward the car as calmly as he could manage. He had just reached the driver's side door when he heard something that made his skin go cold. Whispering. Coming from inside the house. He couldn't make out the words, too soft, too slurred, but there was no mistaking it. Someone or something was talking from that dark, open space behind the door. He didn't wait to listen. He yanked open the car door, jumped in, and slammed it shut. As he turned the key and reversed out of the driveway, the porch light flickered again twice this time before going completely dark. He didn't stop driving until he was back on the main road, with other cars around him and actual streetlights. Overhead, the next day, something gnawed at him. He couldn't shake the feeling that it didn't make sense. So out of curiosity or maybe some sick need for closure, he opened his delivery history in the app to check the address again. But it was gone. The order wasn't there. He checked the timestamp, the customer name, the address history, nothing. It was like the entire delivery had been wiped from the system. He even tried punching the address into Google Maps. The cul-de-sac The one he drove to didn't exist. Not just the house, the whole street. No records, no matching results, nothing. He stared at the screen, completely still. Then he closed the app, and he never accepted another order from outside of town again. Trisha had been working food delivery for a few months. She picked up shifts late at night, mostly because it was quiet and the tips were usually better. She didn't mind the odd hours. She actually liked driving alone through the city at night. The roads were empty, and she could listen to podcasts or music without anyone bothering her. Most nights were smooth. Sure, there were a few creepy houses and the occasional strange customer, but nothing she couldn't handle, until one Thursday night that still makes her stomach turn when she thinks about it. It was around 11:45 p.m. when the order came in, a chicken sandwich meal from a diner that stayed open late. The pickup was easy, no problem. She was already on the road when the delivery address popped up on her screen. That it was an old apartment complex downtown. She'd delivered there before, kind of run down. Lots of flickering hallway lights and weird smells, but nothing too wild. The order said apartment 5B, leave at door, no big deal. She pulled up to the front of the building and parked. Under a dim streetlight, the lobby was quiet, but that wasn't unusual. Most people were asleep at this hour. The elevator buzzed louder than it should have and took forever to crawl up 5 floors. When the doors finally opened, she stepped into a hallway that immediately gave her chills. Half the lights were out, literally, every other bulb in the hallway ceiling was either dead or flickering like a dying firefly, and it was cold, way colder than it should have been for an indoor hallway. Trisha shook off the feeling and started walking toward 5B, trying not to overthink it. She passed one door where music played softly inside, another where she heard a baby crying, normal sounds, but then she reached 5B, and everything felt off. The first thing she noticed was how completely silent it was behind the door. Not just quiet silent, like there wasn't a single sound in that apartment. No TV, no voices, no movement. She also noticed there was no light coming from underneath the door. Usually, even if someone had their living room light off, there'd be something like a kitchen light or even a phone glow. But this, total darkness. She hesitated for a second. Then she knocked lightly, just enough to let them know their food had arrived. No answer. She knocked again. "Hi, it's your delivery," she called out softly. Still nothing. She checked the app again. Yep, 5B, leave at door. So she bent down to set the bag of food on the doormat. That's when she saw it. The door was open, not wide open, just a crack. She could have sworn it was fully shut when she got there, but now it was ajar, maybe an inch or two enough to see. Just a slice of pitch black, nothing inside. She paused, standing very still. Then, from deep inside the apartment, she heard something. Breathing, not just breathing. Slow, heavy, wet breathing, like someone with a cold trying to stay quiet. She didn't move, she didn't blink. For about 5 seconds she stood frozen, staring into that thin crack in the door, trying to decide whether she was imagining it. Then, very slowly, she stood up, backed away, and left the bag right there on the floor. Her heart was racing, but she forced herself to walk, not run, back down the hallway toward the elevator. When she reached it, she pressed the button with a shaky hand. It took forever to arrive. She kept glancing back at 5B, still dark, still silent. Just as the elevator dinged, she heard it. A door slammed. She turned fast. 5B's door was now completely shut, firm, silent. She hadn't heard it move, hadn't seen anyone touch it, but it was closed now, like it had never been cracked. Open. She got into the elevator, her hands clammy, her breath uneven. When she got to the lobby, she walked straight out to her car and locked the doors the second she got in. She sat there for a moment, trying to calm herself down. Maybe the customer was weird. Maybe they were just trying not to interact with her. Maybe she was overreacting. Then her phone buzzed. It was a notification from the delivery app saying the food had been marked as received, and the tip had been removed. Trisha frowned. She opened the app to see if she could call or message the customer. But the number listed, disconnected. She blinked and tried again. Same result. She went to look up the address on Google Maps, just out of curiosity. Apartment 5B didn't show up. The complex was listed, but no floor plan, no details. It was as if 5B didn't exist. She drove home in silence that night, radio off, constantly checking her rearview mirror. When she asked another driver from the app a few days later if they'd ever delivered to that address, they shook their head and said, "That place, pretty sure it's been closed down for years. Trisha doesn't deliver late anymore." Leo always worked Halloween night, not because he loved the spooky vibe, but because almost no other drivers wanted to. That meant more deliveries, less competition, and better tips. Usually, he'd just cruise around for a few hours, dropping off wings, burgers, or candy to people who wanted to stay home and binge horror movies. He liked the quiet, less traffic, fewer people, more money, but that night, something felt off right from the start. It was cold, colder than normal for late October, and the sky was darker than usual. Not cloudy, just darker, like even the moon didn't want to come out. Around midnight, he got a ping for a burger joint he'd just passed. Simple order, 2 cheeseburgers and a large fries. The name on the receipt just said Mitch. No instructions, no notes. He picked it up. No problem. Then the address loaded. It was a small house on a dead-end street just outside town. Leo had never heard of it before, and the GPS kept glitching. The location pin floated off the street twice before it finally settled. Weird, but not the first time that had happened. He drove toward it, keeping his high beams on. The deeper he got into the neighborhood, the fewer streetlights there were. Eventually, it was just him, his headlights, and rows of barely lit houses that all looked the same. He reached the end of the road. The house was normal looking at first, a 1-story white home with a small front yard. No decorations, no lights in the windows, no movement. But the porch light was on, and that was enough to make it feel okay. For now, he parked along the curb and grabbed a food bag. As he walked up the pathway, he noticed something strange. There were no cars parked nearby, not in the driveway, not on the street, no sound coming from inside either. Just the faint hum of his car engine behind him. He rang the doorbell. Nothing. He knocked, still nothing. Then his phone buzzed. It was a message through the app from the customer. Come around back. Door is open. Leo hesitated. He really didn't want to walk into someone's backyard at midnight. It was Halloween, after all. Probably a prank. But the order was real, and he figured maybe they didn't want to wake someone up by opening the front door. Fine, he muttered, trying to act braver than he felt. He walked along the side of the house. The grass was damp, overgrown. There were no lights back there, not even a porch light, just shadows and the faint glimmer of moonlight reflecting off the windows. Then he saw the back door. It was open, not wide open, just cracked, like someone had pushed it slightly but never came out. He called out softly, "Hey, your food's here." No response. He took one slow step closer, then another. That's when he saw it. Something moved inside the house. Not a person standing, not someone walking, something low to the ground, fast, almost like crawling. He froze. His breath caught in his throat. He couldn't make out details, just the blur of movement and the shadows beyond the doorway. He dropped the food bag right there on the step and backed away. But before he could turn around, the door swung open with a loud creak. He bolted. Full sprint. He reached his car, yanked the door open, and jumped inside. As soon as he slammed it shut, something hit the back window hard. He spun around. Nothing, just darkness. No figure, no shape, only the back door, now hanging wide open. He peeled out of there so fast he nearly hit the curb. His hands were shaking on the wheel. His heart felt like it was trying to climb out of his chest. When he got back into town, he pulled into a gas station and parked. He needed to breathe, needed to calm down. He opened the delivery app to report the incident, but the order, gone. No record of it, no name, no address, nothing in his history, like it never happened. He called the app's support line and gave them the house number. The rep was quiet for a second. Then she said something that chilled him more than anything else. "That night, sir, that address is listed as inactive. That house hasn't been available for delivery since March." Leo blinked. "What do you mean?" The rep paused again, then quietly added, "It was flagged after a fire." He looked it up on his phone while still sitting in the car. She was right. That house had burned down 6 months ago, completely destroyed. No one lived there. No one had since, but he was just there. He saw the porch, the door, the movement, or thought he did. He doesn't deliver anymore. Not at night, at least, and definitely not on Halloween.